see it.
There it is.
It's hiding in the back. He's going to tell me to stand still. All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Hello to all our viewers today. I am Stephanie Garces-Donay. I'm the owner and attorney of Garces Law in Arlington Heights, Illinois, where we help parents secure their legacy and also protect their children in their unexpected absence. So thank you for joining us today again. As always a pleasure to have the viewers here because more and more people are asking, what is Pink Mike Legal Confessions about? And we'll get to that in a second because we have a wonderful guest that's waiting to speak to everyone today. But when I think about creating and protecting legacy, this includes a will, a trust, powers of attorney, things that really happen to be very important for people. Don't really understand, how, or it couldn't be confusing to certain people, but I'm sort of trying to understand that as we go because everyone has a different level of understanding of what they think it is. And so on top of the wills and the trusts that of course are important, life insurance and retirement is a hot topic. And this is something that kind of coincides and complements some of the work that I do. And this is why I've asked our guest today on our today's topic, which is Women Who Wow. Fernanda Sanches is here joining us. Fernanda, thank you so much for joining me today. It is such a pleasure to have you and speak to you even before our show. I knew we had synergy. So thank you for joining us. I just wanted to have you tell the viewers a little bit more about what you do, your extensive background, your expertise, and the like. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here today, Stephanie. It was great getting to know you earlier. And hello, everyone. My name is Fernanda Sanches. I'm out of Orlando, Florida, and my story didn't start here, right? I live here today, but my story did not start here. I was born in Brazil. And I grew up in South Florida, and a lot of my childhood, my parents come from very humble beginnings. My mom was a housekeeper. She was her own business owner, and my dad worked, just regular jobs, nothing crazy, and always just trying to get better and become better. And I knew that, as I grew up, I needed to do something to make it worth their while for moving here. And so that's kind of where everything started for me because I wanted to learn about financial freedom. I wanted to learn about how everything like that works here in this country. So when I was growing up, I said, you know what, I'm going to go to school and get good grades and do something with myself. I went to school. I went to Nova Southeastern University. I got my degree in biology and I minored in business and I dabbled in marketing as well. And I didn't do anything in that because I did want to go to dental school. I worked in the dental field for about 6 years, and I started shuffling papers, and then I did assisting. I did management. I kind of wanted to learn how to run the business. That way, if I did decide to go to dental school, that I would have a extensive experience already. It was a tough decision, but I actually ended up not doing that. I didn't go that route because it wasn't a passion of mine anymore. And after working in the field for those 6 years, I realized, man, these dentists that I work for were deers. They were very hardworking people, and they still struggled a little bit. They still had financial loans that they were paying off for their offices from school debt after 20, 25 years. And I said, you know what, maybe this isn't it. Even if it was a passion, I probably would have stuck it out, but it wasn't there for me anymore. So at my last year in college, I met my other half. We've been together now almost 12 years. Now I just gave away my age kind of.
That's impressive, and it's impressive. It really is.
So we got together. He had moved from South Florida to California. And he was in the financial world. He was in the insurance business, and he left that world to pursue DJing. Go figure, Los Angeles, right?
Right.
And when I moved out there, I said, you know what, I'm not going to do dentistry anymore, but let's do this. I will help you. We'll build something together. And that's where our entrepreneurship journey began. And I went to YouTube University just to learn how to run a business. It was free. And that's what we did. I taught myself how to do Photoshop and web design and email marketing and design, all this stuff, right? And I built that part of the business. He did the music stuff, and we built a business for together, right? So it took a lot of trials and tribulations. It was very, very up and down and sideways and backwards, as it is to build a business. We and after some time, and as I reached my late 20s, I realized, you know what, this is not, again, not the right fit for me. This isn't the long-term fit. I grew out of that industry. And just on that last year that I was in that music business, my brother-in-law, who had been at this insurance firm for, a decade almost, he said, come with us on a family trip, all expense paid, Italy, Greece, Croatia. And all I could say to Dean, my other half, was hurry up and hang up the phone before he changes his mind. I got my bag packed. When is it? In 8 months? Okay.
I love that.
So we went. And the best part of this was it was a company trip. I got to meet everyone in the company. The leadership, the CEO, Patrick Bet-David, who runs Valuetainment. I got to meet Matt and Sheena Sapala. I got to meet everyone. And they were just very humble. Very, very humble, quite the change from the music industry. So I said, you know what?
Different things, right?
Oh gosh, I was like, this is amazing. And so when I came back, I got my insurance license. We moved to Orlando, Florida, where John Mason was running his office. And I said, you know what? He's one of the top guys in the firm. This is how I'm going to learn everything. And we became brokers and equity partners of the firm. And here we are today. So right now I'm educating families on what to do with their life insurance, their retirement planning, and everything kind of that you do as well. You're on that legal side of it. And it's just really exciting. It's really exciting because I finally found that niche that I really love, that I'm going to be in for a very long time.
Well, that's awesome. And thank you for showing, really the nitty gritty about how you got to where you are. I think a lot of viewers and people in general, we kind of skim over the past where we were exploring what to do, what area we want to land in, and there's just so much out there, that so many paths you can take. And, the fact that you just said, this is your passion, that's great, because that's exactly why I'm in the area that I'm in as well. Because at the end of the day, there is a need, regardless of income, regardless of background, and beginnings of where you come from, there's always a need for this sort of thing. So thank you so much for sharing that, Fernanda. I really appreciate you going into detail, because it's always nice to kind of understand who you are. I'm really excited to talk about the topic today, even though I hope most of our viewers don't fall asleep on it. But it's really important because we were just saying these topics are super dry, right? We know that, estate planning, and same with, retirement planning, life insurance can be quite, not as exciting, but we are going to explain everything in detail. Please have your questions below if you're interested in asking anything. This is the time, and this is really relevant to what's going on. So life in general, right, in life insurance and retirement planning, it's part of the long-term goals for many people. And life may not be completely back to normal because of COVID, and there's a pandemic. And now we're in a new year. Now we're trying to figure out, what do we need to do so that our family and our legacy is safe? And thank goodness many of us are refocusing ourselves and our goals on short-term, long-term financial planning. So in your experience, are you finding this to be the same in your clients? Because I know for my clients, people are sort of shifting their priorities. People care about wills. They care about powers of attorney. They care about trust and their assets and what it looks like, God forbid, they're no longer here or incapacitated. So are you seeing the same thing on your end?
Absolutely. More than ever before now. We're seeing the same thing on our end. Last year was 2020 was crazy in all sorts of levels, but it was very busy for us, to say the least. And more people are realizing today more than ever before how important life insurance is. And not only that, but how will my family financially survive if something happens to me? How am my family, what if I get COVID, and what if something happens to me? I'm sure that most people either now were either affected or know someone who knows someone that either passed away or got very ill. For example, one of our agents, and this was back mid-year last summer, his father ended up getting COVID, and he was elderly, and he ended up passing away. Now, as an insurance agent, he was brand new to the industry. His father hadn't set anything up yet. And so just to see it from his perspective, now that he already knows what he could have done to help and what his father could have done for them to have because when somebody passes away and the family gets together, the last thing you want to think of is, how are we splitting this up? Or is there, anything to bury them? And is there enough money? So we're seeing it so much now more than ever that people are taking it more seriously, which is great. Because it is very important. And I think there's this weird, not stigma, but it's like this weird unknown thing. What is it and how does it work when both of our industries? So
I think, is it worth it is a big myth. Like, if I do this, is it really going to help me? Is it really going to save me money, my family money in the long run, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So in your opinion, and kind of going back to this COVID thing, because it's the most obvious example of, when things go wrong, no one's expecting it. In your opinion, Fernanda, do you think coronavirus pandemic affected the way people should be looking at insurance and retirement planning more than before? Because it's clear that people have it on their radars, but haven't got around to it. Do you think there's anything that changed because of the pandemic outside of more of a need, but are there things people should consider?
That's a great question, actually. I think in addition to realizing, hey, I need to make sure that if I pass away, my family is okay. But what I've been seeing a lot of is the need for, okay, well, what if I get ill? What if I get ill or something chronic or critical happens to me today? Sometimes that could bankrupt the family even more if instead of somebody passing away. Right. And so a lot of the old term life insurance policies, because if you think of life insurance, the first thing generally that people think of is what? Protecting family. I have to pass away. I'm not going to see that money. And so the newer types of life insurance out there, a lot of people still don't know about. And so that's what people are realizing today. Oh, I can use this while I'm still living. What? I had no idea. And that's
a good point. I mean, that's a really solid point, Fernanda. I don't think, and maybe you can sort of, exemplify kind of an example of that. Or if you see someone that said, hey, I thought it was only for this.
Yeah, sure. For example, so a lot of these policies that pay you actually while you're still living have something called living benefits in it. Now, if you're in the market for insurance and you're like, well, I don't know who to go to and where to go or what to even look for or ask for, make sure that it's somebody that has access to multiple carriers so they have access to a variety of products, right? You want to go to somebody like an Expedia that has access to many different airlines versus just going to one airline, right? And that's the advantage. So we have access to some of these carriers that we're partners with that they have those living benefits. They evolved and said, you know what? This is not just for when you pass away. So if you get a heart attack, cancer, stroke, that's considered a critical illness or a chronic illness where if you can't perform 2 out of 6 activities of daily living, right? So if you can't bathe yourself or feed yourself or something like that, not long-term care, but long-term care like benefits, you can actually access the death benefit while you're still living. And a lot of people do not know about that. So the challenge is, what happens if you don't have that set up? And you don't have, all this extra money in the bank? What do people do?
Now, can someone, let's say for some of our viewers, let's say, okay, a viewer is looking at us and saying, well, I have life insurance and I'm fine, but I really don't know if I have, that sort of caveat in there. What should they do? Should people be asking their insurance agent? I know for us, I have people contact me if you have any questions about your trust, or something that's not clear, come back to us. Are you having people come back to you? Should people go back to their agents, or should they consider, if there's better policies out there?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the person. If you have an agent that you have a relationship, 100%, go ahead and ask them, hey, what is this, and how can I get my hands on it? Or, I mean, feel free to reach out. You're going to get our information here today. Feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to take a look at it and look over it to see if there's something that we can do and see what best fits your needs, the needs for your family. Because the chances are is if you already don't have it, there's a chance that that company just didn't offer it. They don't have the capability of getting it.
Okay, that's it. Yeah, that's a good point. And so I'm just going to recap really quick for those of you that are just joining us and just hopped onto our Facebook Live. My name is Attorney Stephanie Garces-Donay. I am the owner and principal attorney at Garces Law in Arlington Heights, Illinois, where I help parents and individuals protect their legacies and really protect their assets that they have. And so this week's in Pink Mike Legal Confessions, we have Fernanda Sanches here with us, a fellow entrepreneur, life insurance, and retirement planning expert. Just to kind of recap what we're doing for those people that are just joining us. And our topic today is life insurance and retirement planning. So if you missed our last week's episode, we had covered starting the new year off right. It's right on our Facebook page. Feel free to follow it and check it out. It's really good stuff about how to be healthy, how to detox, really get your health goals in order for 2021 and the like. So make sure you check that out. We always welcome our viewers to join us here on Tuesdays at 2:30 p.m. Central Time. We share tips about legal guidance for parents, for guardians. And as you know, we're covering now retirement and life planning, really, life insurance as well. And so kind of recapping. So I know a lot of our viewers have questions regarding retirements and savings and options that they have available to them because, again, maybe people don't feel like they have a relationship with their agent. So, of course, they're going to have questions for some of the stuff that we're discussing. So we do have a couple of questions that have come in. So we're going to go ahead and address those just to see if we can help answer those questions to make sure that everyone is more knowledgeable when they leave and click out of our Facebook Live. That is the goal today. So I think we kind of talked about the difference in insurances and the policies, but what is the difference, Fernanda, in your opinion, between a regular life insurance and annuity?
So in the most simplest form, right? The life insurance protects your life, right? It protects your loved ones, and annuities protect your money. And here's what a lot of people, they focus so much on, okay, I need to make sure that I have enough money in my 401k and my IRAs, mutual funds. Okay, now I'm saving, and then investing, and then I hit retirement and it's like, oh, now what? So, annuities is a contract with the insurance company, and there's some fantastic annuities out there that protect your money, where your principal is protected, and some of them even offer guaranteed lifetime income, so you can set up your own personal pension.
Great. So when you say create your own pension, does that go for anyone across the board? I mean, does it matter if, like, for me, like, I'm self-employed, maybe some of our viewers are self-employed, or they work for someone else and they say, oh, what, my company has something like that. Can someone still qualify no matter like your career?
Yes, absolutely. So it's not like life insurance where you have to qualify for and you have to be healthy. Obviously, there's suitability involved, and we have to make sure that it's okay to be in that specific annuity. But for the most part, there are some really fantastic products out there with annuities that will protect your money. You'll still be able to get the ups of the market with no downside losses. So you still have that growth potential. And some of them even have long-term care riders where, if you turn on, let's say you're getting an income from that annuity, like a Social Security, right? That's an annuity. Or when you win the lotto, if you ever won the lotto and you pay payments for the rest of my life, that's an annuity. So it's that, but you can set it up for yourself, especially entrepreneurs and business owners, because that's I mean, we have to figure stuff out on our own. But you can do that in addition to whatever your job is doing. So that way you have your own thing. Because a lot of people, if you're switching 3, 4, 5 jobs in your lifetime and starting over and this and that, this is something that you can have for yourself.
Great. Well, that's good to know. I mean, I was just asking because I wasn't sure if it only is for certain people, because I think that's one of the common misconceptions. You and I were talking about how with estate planning, with life insurance, you have to have a certain amount of asset or money. And that's really not what it's about. It's more for, for yourself, regardless of what your income is. So thank you for addressing that. Okay, we have another question from one of the audience members. Should I start putting money into my Roth IRA in addition to my 401k?
Oh, okay. All right. So let's dive into that. All right. Let's see, how much time do I have here? Okay.
maybe we can start, because we have to remember some of our viewers, they may or may not have this. So why don't we explain maybe what is a Roth and how it's different, and your thoughts on that?
Sure. So that question, you have to look at, okay, what's the difference between the two? Why are they asking 401k versus Roth? And it's basically a tax question, right? Because a 401k is tax deferred stocks and mutual funds. Deferred, aka later, right? You put your money away, it's gonna grow, and then when you're ready to take it out, when you're 59 and a half or retired, right? You can start taking that money out, in which case you'll pay ordinary income tax. But on the other hand, the Roth IRA, those contributions you're putting in with after-tax dollars. So when you're ready to take that money out, it's tax-free. So one is tax-free, one is tax later. And the challenge, if you're this or that, I'm not a advisor or a tax specialist, a CPA, I'm a life insurance agent, but what I can say is this. There is in what a lot of people don't know is if you're looking for that tax-free bucket, because a lot of people have that tax deferred, right? You have the 401ks, 403bs, 457, all those are they're tax deferred. They're tax codes. If you look them up, they're in the IRS handbook, right? Section 401k of the IRS handbook. So that if you only have your money in that tax later bucket, then what happens? I mean, we don't know what taxes are going to be like in the future, but what happens if they were to go up? Then you have to look, okay, well, then that means I'm going to have to pay higher tax on more money. Well, okay, well, I might have some deductions, but will you though? Because now you're going to be in retirement age. Your house might be paid off. You can't write that off. Your kids are out of the house. I have one of our brokers just talking to me about this the other day. He's like, my parents are in this right now. Their Social Security is getting taxed right now because they don't have any write-offs. So
it's crazy, isn't it? That's a crazy scenario. Like, and the more that you say that, there is a good amount of people that I know that do have these things paid off and probably fall in this bucket.
Exactly. But there's nothing wrong with that, right? It's just because a lot of companies, that's what they offer. Now, so when somebody's looking at a Roth, okay, well, that's tax-free bucket. I'm not going to have to pay tax later on. So when I'm taking that withdrawal later on, it's going to balance out my income. So I'm not paying as much in tax. Now, here's where it gets really good in my world, the life insurance side that a lot of people don't know about. You see, life insurance is what holds everything together if something happens to you. Life insurance, and a lot of people think of insurance, we're trained to think of insurance as another expense. Oh, another bill. Oh, I have my renter's insurance, my mortgage insurance, my car insurance, my cell phone insurance, but I don't have life insurance, right? I haven't my iPhone. Okay. So we're trained, it's just another bill, but there are insurance policies. There's different types of insurances out there. Did you know that insurance is one of the best ways to invest in and get tax-free cash down the road? You can literally save like 30% in taxes by investing in a permanent life insurance policy.
That's insane. Well, let me ask you this, and this is just out of my curiosity before I go to the next questions. If you are a person of my age or a person that's double my age, does it matter what life insurance I get versus someone else? Like, do you usually advise clients depending on where they're at in their life?
It depends 100% on each person, 1000%. There's different types of life insurance. You have the term kind where everyone knows of, right? It's like car insurance. If you crash, it pays. If not, it just doesn't pay. If you don't have it, it goes away. There's other policies where it's like if you crash your car, it's going to pay. And then if you don't crash, you get your money back. So there's like a mortgage protection where you can actually take out on yourself. So if something happens to you, your family is protected. If nothing happens to you, let's say after 30 years, you get your money back.
Gotcha.
Okay. But then there's that permanent policy where it covers all the bells and whistles, right? You have the death benefit that is permanent. So the money that you're passing on, this is your world, is that legacy money. That's money going on to the family and tax-free. Now, you also have the living benefits. So if you fall ill with chronic or critical terminal illness, you can access the death benefit while you're still living. And that's important. Why? Because come on, this is going to be around, these policies can be up to 120 years old designed, right? So you'll have that in your 70s, 80s, 90s. Over 71% of people need some sort of long-term care like benefit or adult daycare.
Right.
And health insurance doesn't cover that. So what do we do? So these life insurance policies come clutch for the death benefit that's permanent, for the living benefits, and also for that tax-free cash growth.
Mm-hmm. So basically, it's like that last one that you talked about, it seems to be the one where, you have the benefit while you're living, which I think is a big takeaway of today, because that is something that may not all viewers may not know, and quite frankly, might confuse them. And I think maybe sometimes, depending on who they're working with, they may not even know that's an option. So thank you for sharing that. And thank you to the viewer that asked that question. It kind of provoked some thought for us. I have another question here, more directed towards me, but if there's a chance that I'm going to get divorced, what do I do to protect my retirement savings? That's a great question. And as much as I want to say, run for the hills, that is not the answer. The answer, it's interesting because divorce, I always call this a life event. I always talk about this on my show because life events really do trigger the way we think about our savings, our retirement, our legacy. And so something like a divorce, yes, you should definitely revisit the beneficiary information you have on those retirement accounts. I can't tell you how many times I've had clients come in and we talk about their estate plan, and I broach the topic of, let's talk about your beneficiary information you have on file, and who's on file, and they'll say, oh, I don't remember. And they may or may not have gotten divorced in the last couple of years. And there have been instances where I've seen an ex-husband, an ex-wife, an ex-spouse, a friend that they don't really care for anymore on that policy. So the beneficiary information is really important. And that is the best way to protect your retirement savings up front. Because it's an easy thing you do. You go in and you fix the forms internally with wherever your retirement accounts are. Of course, too, I talked about the trusts. Trusts are a great way to protect your assets as well, because kind of similar to that policy you talked about, Fernanda, the trust you can actually, if you're talking about a living trust is great because you could use it while you're living. And basically you could name who's going to be in charge of your affairs and in charge of everything that you own and where you want it to go, including some of this retirement account thing in the event of your death. But also, if you become incapacitated, the living trust does that job too. So a lot of people think that estate planning is only for when you pass away. That's only half of it. The other half is that the trust is really valuable because it's while you're living, you transfer everything into the trust, and it really does protect your assets, including your retirement accounts upon your death. So just something to consider with that. I know divorce is a great way to check in with your finances and check in with what you have in as an estate plan. So please consider that if you are going through a divorce. So that's a great question. And kind of going off of that, because there's another question that came in very similar, is what is the best way to handle my life insurance before and after divorce? Now, I talked about the beneficiary forms a little bit, making sure you know who the beneficiary is of your life insurance policy. Fernanda, do you ever have any sort of clients that say, hey, I just got divorced, can you please change my information on it?
Yes, and a lot of these companies have made it very simple to do that. We have some companies that we work with that you can just do it online. But yes, I mean, there's people that switch it right after the policy gets approved and issued. So it's something that, oh, I changed my mind kind of thing. I've seen it all.
That's funny. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. So, because I think that's kind of goes to our next point. I mean, the life insurance always has beneficiaries. At least you hope it does. And that's where I always encourage people to constantly check this stuff, everyone, because especially if you're with someone, maybe they're a life partner, maybe they're a spouse, and something changes in that sense, you definitely want to go back to revise that. And quite frankly, you should make an appointment with your attorney, because that is something we want to reassess altogether. Because again, I have plenty of clients that come and see me for their living trusts when they're married, right? So we create one sort of trust that way. But then there's also other ways to do that when you're on your own and no longer married. So you want to definitely revise that. I mentioned this before, another Facebook Live series, but I do offer free consultations for anyone that's interested from the safety of your own home. Just like Fernandas, all the way in Florida, we can do this wherever you are. I've had plenty of clients go out of state, and they are free. So please feel free to reach out to us. You could text the number, which is 773-373-9592. If you want to set up a consultation, it's at the screen below. You can also call that number. So that's a good way for us to segue into kind of big picture of life events and divorces. The other question I'm getting, which is actually making me laugh, because for all the pet lovers out there, there's a pet lover here that's asked a question that says, is it true that I can set aside money to care for my pets? Yes, it is true. It is true. It's called a pet trust, for Fido or, whoever your pet is. Yes, there's a way to set up a trust. I've always joked around, with my clients, saying that if you do have somebody that you want to leave the dog to, you want to make sure that the dog is taken care of, or the cat or whatever, we can create a special trust for your pet. So all the pet owners out there are probably like, wow, that sounds like a good idea. And also, I didn't know that was an option. So yes, and actually the people that do sign up for those, it's really people that long-term maybe are sort of grappling with the idea of whether or not the pet they will outlive the pet, to be frank with everyone. So it is something we offer, and yes, you can put money aside for your fur baby. So do you have pets, Fernanda? I don't know if you have pets.
I do. She is a half Chihuahua mix, half human mix. I don't know exactly the human, how much percentage she is, but I swear she thinks she's a person. But yeah, her name is Cookie, and she's 10 years old now. So we rescued her in LA. We took her off the streets, and she went from the streets to the sheets.
She sleeps with you. So we all, I mean, we're all guilty of that. I mean, I have 2 dogs myself, and I'm definitely that's great. But yeah, I mean, great question. Okay, so I have another question here. Someone that just popped in. Are there any gotchas when it comes to life insurance where the policy would not pay out as expected? So maybe this kind of goes to the fine print of some of these policies, which is a great question.
Yes, that's a really great question. Something that you always want to ask your agent. But as far as gotchas, there's typically a 2-year contestability on your policy, which means that within those first 2 years, if something were to happen to you and the insurance company sees something where they have to investigate, right, just to verify some information, if that information they find is false, then that's something that they would not pay out. Right. So if you are dishonest on your application, or there's a suicide clause on there as well, where if you commit suicide, then they won't pay out in that time period. So it's certain things like that. Other than that, I mean, these companies are very, I mean, there's some companies that have been around for over 100 years, 150, 160 years. So these companies are good for their word. They're A-rated. As long as you're with an A-rated, A+ rated company where that's their claims paying ability, that's something that you want to take a look at. But these companies are great today. Because think about it, they can't not be great, or else they're going to go out of business, right?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And this is a good question, because I think a lot of people, kind of going back to like common misconceptions, is people really do think like, what if I get this policy and but it's cheap and maybe it doesn't cover me and this and that. And it's good to know. I know that there is usually you can dispute this sort of thing. And I know for attorneys, we usually get busy doing that, so that we can usually step in to do that sort of work. But yes, you could definitely, for the viewer that asked it, you could definitely challenge it. But like Fernanda said, you want to check, because it's just important to know your policy. And I think not everyone knows the terms. I mean, a lot of it's, it might as well be in another language, because it doesn't really always make sense to everybody. So that's great. Okay, we have another question of somebody that's asking, how much should I plan to spend per month on life insurance?
Okay, well, it depends on a person to person basis. It really does. You see, in that question is how much should I spend, is still looking at it as an expense, right? Because if you're looking at the permanent policy as an investment vehicle, that you're still going to be able to get the growth of the market with no downside losses, that tax-free money that we were talking about earlier,
right?
Those policies, you want to put in as much as possible, right? Because the more that you put in, the more tax-free money is going to grow in those policies. But if you're looking at a term policy or another type of policy where you're not doing it for the investment, you're just like, okay, well, how much should I spend? It depends on how much insurance do you need? So you want to look at different, how much debt do I have? If something were to happen to me today, am I going to be leaving behind a debt to the family? And if so, how much would that be? If I were to pay everything off today, what would that be? And then you want to look at income. If you have young children, right? How many, and they rely on your income, right? So how many years do you want them to be able to live off of your current income today? So if it's 10 years, you take your income times 10. You want to look at mortgage. How much do I have left on the mortgage? So that way the family doesn't lose that home if something happens to me. And then education costs, it goes up every year.
I was going to say, there's really no cap on that as we speak.
Right.
That's
true. We also have the legacy part, and that's how much that's my legacy. These are permanent policies that I want to create generational wealth. How do I do it? And that's when you would get with somebody with you and say, you know what, put it into a trust, and some of it goes towards the family, some goes into more life insurance investment, and you just keep doing that over, generations, and boom, I mean, you've created wealth.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm really glad that we're talking about like creating wealth, because even though we've called us women who wow, and we are very knowledgeable women, it is very nice to hear, kind of big picture of, because I think sometimes when people think life insurance, it's like you said, it's an expense and it has to do with my life when I'm no longer here. But it's actually, like you said, building wealth is always a topic of conversation, especially as we get older. Each year that goes by, I keep hearing more and more people talk about their investments and, oh, I have a portfolio here and I have a portfolio there, and then but rarely do you ever hear people discuss life insurance as another way to build wealth. So I'm loving your answers with that, Fernanda, because it kind of opens the door to another conversation, or maybe even thought to some of the viewers that have been provoked by what you're saying, because they do need a little bit of education on this stuff. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Another question we have here that has popped in is, when is the right time to buy insurance? And I think we maybe broached this, but this person specifically said, I am not married and I don't have any kids.
Yesterday, no. So the best time is when you're young and healthy. That's it. Because you do have to qualify. You can't get insurance. Imagine trying to get auto insurance after you've crashed your car.
No.
Right? The best time is when you're young and healthy. And a lot of the agents that know about these policies in our firm, they say, you know what, as soon as my baby gets that social security number, we're applying for a policy, because God forbid something happens, there's the living benefits. Because you know that if something were to ever happen to your child, that you would do whatever it takes. So why not have a check from the insurance company to help you out? Hey, now I don't have to even go into work. I'm going to take care of my child. So number one, they are protected, and yet they have that permanent life insurance policy. But two, they're going to have that tax-free growth over years. You can have them by the time they're 65. Imagine that. You start off very minimal amount monthly, and over the course of their lifespan, it's the best gift you can give them for the future. They can have hundreds of thousands and even millions in tax-free money down the road. And that's important because we really don't know what's going to happen. The economy you've seen this past year has been so crazy.
Yeah,
And
unpredictable.
yeah, and insurance is really that thing that keeps everything together. If something happens to you, it helps. We're on the defense side, right? We're not on that offense. Hey, how much can you make? It's more how much can you keep, and that's insurance. And that's what we teach people. Hey, there's other things out there. There's other ways to protect your family, so that way you don't need to use GoFundMe or do a car wash at the church or a food drive or whatever it is. And there are really affordable insurance policies as little as $1 a day, depending on age and whatnot, that can still protect your family.
Right. It kind of reminds me of what I always preach about as wills. Having a basic will is a good idea, regardless of income, regardless of background, regardless of your assets. And it just makes for a smoother transition for your family, and also really does save you money in the long run, to avoid any sort of issues like probate, where, it's a whole nother topic in itself, but it's very consuming and for money and time for families. And so consider that what we're talking about. That's kind of synonymous with what we're saying. This is a funny question that just came in, kind of similar. Should I have a living will or a trust if I'm not married and don't have kids? So very, very similar answer. Well, I will say it really depends on the person and what they're worth. And when I say that what they're worth, it's really their net worth. There are reasons why everyone should consider a basic will at the very minimum. And just because you don't have kids does not mean you should not consider a living will or a living trust. Because when you think about these things, there is always a way to protect your legacy and your children. For people that don't have kids, they might think, oh, why would I need a will? Well, it definitely helps with leaving instructions to your family. It helps the person who is the executor to oversee your affairs. And a trust does help, especially if you own a home. That is a great reason to think about having a trust, even if you say, oh, my home is not worth much. Well, we have to discuss, because it really depends on the person. So having kids or not having kids really is irrelevant to me when I do consultations with clients, because to me, I want to know, kind of like you were saying, Fernanda, what is their legacy that they're trying to protect? What are the client's goals? Is the goal so that, mom doesn't pass away and all the kids are fighting? There's so many reasons why a living trust and a will are so important for each individual, depending on, again, their net worth and what they're trying to do with their assets. But having kids and not being married, I would say, is not a reason to cancel yourself out from estate planning, even though that's a great question, because I get it all the time. So thank you for whoever asked that. Kind of talking about this in general too, Fernanda, what are your thoughts on life insurance when it comes to explaining it to people that maybe they have a stigma and they're saying, well, I just don't think I need it. I have a house and they can sell that, and I have maybe a car, or maybe I have something of an asset. Because there are schools of thought, we're going to say, that life insurance maybe isn't needed if I have assets in X amount that they can distribute, if you will. Do you ever hear that?
I hear that more, when it's more of a tax issue. I hear more with the wealthy clients, right? Where they're like, I don't need life insurance. I have all this money and all this land and this and that. But you always need a vehicle to help with those taxes that they're going to deal with later on. And that's done through life insurance. Okay. But then also you have clients that say, oh, I don't even want to talk about it because I just, it's bad luck to talk about life insurance. And I've gotten that too. And if they say, hey, I already have this, and this, great. What do you have that's going to protect the money that you worked your whole life for? What do you have to protect you in case you fall ill? and something like a critical or chronic illness, I mean, in Florida on the low end, you're looking at $5,000 a month.
Wow.
And health insurance doesn't cover. That's for part-time help.
That's
So
crazy.
we have to protect the money that you worked your life for. And so insurance, and that's the people that say, you know what, and that's when I say, you know what, did you know the new types of life insurance? It's not that anymore. And that's the conversation that I have. And then you just find their needs and what's important to them, and see if you can best help them. And here's the stigma, right? I'm going to go back to this because I know it's crazy, but I know all of the viewers, you're probably thinking, there's so many life insurance out there. But I'm here to tell you, we have a shortage, right? There's not enough of us out there. When you're growing up, you're like, I want to be a firefighter or a police officer, not a life insurance agent, right? A lawyer before they're a life insurance agent. And so I do a lot of training and development for agents as well, to get into the business, because there's not enough of us talking to the communities out there to let them know, hey, this is what else is out there. A lot of people still don't know. They just rely on that one thing that their HR department offers them, or even their group life policy. Those don't have living benefits. And I mean, are you staying there the rest of your life, right? You're going to end up leaving that job. So then what? Now you're going to be older. So we do. I mean, we have Travis Sapp, who is our agent. He's opening up an office in the Fort Worth, Dallas area. But we're all over the place. We're licensed in all 50 states. So, the insurance industry is not what it was back in the day, and it's definitely changing.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, because I think that's also one of the things that, and again, we're talking different generations, right? Because what we think we know in our generation is very different than what things were for our parents or maybe our grandparents when it comes to insurance, and where it comes for estate planning and everything that really has changed over time. So I'm happy that you brought that up and sort of explained, because I'm sure the wealthier clients, I hope there's wealthy clients looking, so you can get some knowledge here from Fernanda. But the idea being that it seems like there's a message, and it's intertwined throughout all of our discussion today, is that you really should consider what's customizable to what you need, and also don't overlook what you already have. So that's great, and that's kind of what I was trying to delve into, because I know that you offered services, and yes, there's a good amount of agents, but you come from a pretty reputable industry and company. And how long has your company been in business? I think you told me, but I can't.
Over a decade, over 11 years now. And our CEO and founder, Patrick Bet-David, he's one of the top entrepreneurs in the world right now. He has his channel on YouTube. A lot of people know him from there. It's called Valuetainment. So definitely check that out. He's, just a phenomenal human being. I'm blessed to know him and his family. And, I want you guys to keep this in mind, because I know, we got really technical today and talking about the important things that you should know. But keep in mind, and just to kind of go backwards a little bit, we had an agent. I think this is important to share, because one of the agents that got started with our company, and this is why I love our company so much, because we do, meet a lot of people, and I get to, help families from all walks of life. But we had an agent. She got started. She was in the midst of studying for her life insurance license, right? Mm-hmm. And she ended up she had some medical issues, took a pause in the business, had some surgeries, which she was fine. It was just, back thing. And by the time she was healed and ready to get back into the swing of things, before she had that life insurance policy for her and her family in place, her husband got diagnosed with a brain tumor that was cancerous. And this is somebody that has done very well in their life. I mean, they have 401ks, they have IRAs. She's made millions in her life. She's managed large teams and has managed territories for a specific company. Mm-hmm. And no life insurance. No. So now they're living from that money that she worked her whole life for. And from that IRA, she's like, it's almost half gone. And so life insurance, if the proper life insurance is in place, you guys can protect yourselves from being in that position. And that's what we do for families. That's really the core of what we do. And obviously, the more agents that we have and a part of our agency, the more families we can reach, right? So that's the key.
Well, thank you for sharing that story, Fernanda. I think it really hits home to a lot of viewers. People have been going through unprecedented times. In my office just today, I heard someone say that they lost a family member, kind of overnight. I think it was COVID related, but also some other underlying issues. So this is very relevant to the world that we're in and the climate that we're in. I mean, we can't deny the fact that things are changing rapidly, and we are always here to educate the viewers. I know they're on Facebook looking at what's going on. Make sure to pop in here to learn something, because this is invaluable information. So thank you, Fernanda, so much for joining us today. I do want to kind of wrap up here because we are getting close to time, but I do want to thank all of our viewers for your questions and your concerns that you have out there. We really appreciate that, because it really allows us to better serve the community. Your questions mean a lot to us, but also to BB viewers that are going to be viewing this after the fact. So it's great for us to have the viewers join Pink Mike Legal Confessions every Tuesday at 2:30, where we are getting more and more in depth into new topics that are relevant to you, and we hope to family members and friends that might need our services. We both cherish the opportunity to really earn your trust in the work that we do, and to prepare for your legacy and secure it long-term for your family. So like anything in life, it's really, really worth it to do some financial planning. Reach out to Fernanda for your life insurance. She is licensed in Illinois, for those of you that are watching, so please know that. And we also encourage you to take the time to start a discussion with your family. I mean, there's no better time than the present. I know we're all quarantined in many ways, so please feel free to look into this, and don't be shy to pick up the phone and make a call to my office, to Fernanda, if you do need more guidance, or you just want to know what kind of the next steps, or what is something that might be relevant to you in the arena of estate planning or life insurance. You can always text or call the number below. So kind of like we said before, make sure you consider anything new this year. Being part of that is your estate plan and any life insurance if you haven't looked at that in a while. So thank you again, Fernanda, for all your wonderful information. It's been so wonderful to get to know you and meet you today. And I know I learned a lot. I hope the viewers did too. And I invite everyone here who's watching us today to join us again next week for Pink Mike Legal Confessions. Same time, same place. And always invite your friends, invite your family, share the recordings, and with your family members, please, please stay safe during this time. And again, really, really hope to see you next week. And thank you again, Fernanda. Hope everyone's doing well. Stay well. And
bye, everyone. Thank you for having me.
You're
Great
so welcome. Anytime. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week.